Hey, welcome and thanks everybody for tuning in. My name is Chris Plaichner, Chief Customer Experience Officer at Tricentis, and today we want to talk about leading testing transformation into the new normal. And today with us, Tammie Davis, Director of Global Quality Engineering at IHG. With 6,000 hotels, brands like InterContinental and Holiday Inn and many others, InterContinental Hotel Group is one of the biggest operators worldwide in this space. So Tammie, thanks very much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you. Let's jump right into this. Maybe we can start with telling everybody out there who is joining us today about your role and responsibilities at IHG.
Sure. So as you mentioned, I'm the director of our global quality engineering team. What that means for us here at IHG is that I have responsibility for the teams that do things such as our enterprise standards and processes and tools around testing, as well as our end-to-end performance testing, service virtualization, test data management, kind of all those things that underlie the overall testing functions.
Perfect, wonderful. And I mean, talking about, metrics and test practices, you are in the leisure and travel industry, so I guess COVID, hit this industry pretty hard. Yeah. Thinking about, everybody talks about faster, better quality, and doing things cheaper. Are there metrics that have changed based on COVID, or same old in the sense of how you measure your business and how you run things?
I think some things have changed and some have really stayed the same, but as we've kind of pivoted into what this new normal is for us, our ability to respond with agility and at pace has just been instrumental. So it's meant we've had to really limit our focus on those most critical areas. And one of those metrics that's just remained key, it's kind of a cornerstone, as you've heard many times, around defect leakage, meaning are we catching those defects earlier in the cycle, or are they being found just before production, or even worse in production? So we all know the cost of finding a defect increases substantially the later in the cycle that you find it. So the cost impact of poor quality is just even greater now than it ever has been before. But then we're also, thinking about the future. And one of the things that for us it's going to be all about is really optimization. Are we using our tools to drive improvements and optimization, which inherently drive our costs down through increased productivity? And we're kind of casting a wide net right now, feeling things out, looking at things like test case reuse, test case duplication, unused or obsolete test cases, number of defects per test case to help us drive towards risk-based testing, and then automation penetration, because you couple those with the above metrics, and we're really talking about what is our return on investment on our automation.
Interesting. Very, very good. Hey, and so what was the biggest learning, right? And how COVID affected you? Was there a thing where we can say this was clearly a thing where we had to change strategy and priorities?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the last 7 to 8 months, this travel landscape has just changed dramatically. We've had to move to ensure that our organization and our plan and our resources fit into the trading environment that we're just in, and the needs of our colleagues and stakeholders have been met. So what really became clear to kind of how we responded as a company this year is that we have to continue to be more creative. We have to continue to be agile and resourceful as we execute on what that long-term strategy is. Our leadership really kind of set that pace early on for us in this whole pandemic and enabled a really high degree of transparency and showed that genuine concern that helped keep our teams motivated, even though we had to make some really hard choices. The focus has just become that much clearer during the pandemic, and things like the agile principles that really kind of came to the forefront or bubbled up for us, or things around failing fast and then moving on, right? It just became more poignant because we didn't have time to waste on resources commiserating over why this went wrong, et cetera, et cetera. We had to pick up and move on. And then with so many staffing changes, we had a lot of times where we had new eyes that were put on old processes. And so having those quick retrospectives at the end of the sprint or the release really helped us pick those top couple of actions and lessons that had the greatest impact and then keep it moving. So that's what we found so far.
Perfect. Makes total sense. And I think that brings me back to, we were also in the situation that you were joining us last year at our user conference. Thanks for that too. And you talked about your transformation journey and that you're pretty early or in the early stages. So I was wondering, where are we on the roadmap? Have things changed? if are things going potentially even faster based on the things that you mentioned before? So I'm wondering where we are.
Yeah, I will say, as we can talk through the details that we have here, it took us, as you see here, on a little bit of a detour. We actually went back and referenced, back to the slide that we had last year. We were on track, we were on pace, ready to hit the gas pedal. And as you can see, COVID definitely took us on a bit of a detour. So we're coming around that bend now. We're planning for the future. Our focus remains the same, though. It hasn't changed our roadmap and our trajectory. What it's changed is a bit of those details that it's going to take. But we still have to focus on things that are going to embed things like automation first mentality across our teams. We have to continue to focus on how we're going to be able to scale up to a performance engineering organization, and metrics to drive all of this and ensure the governance along the way. So it hasn't changed. It's just been a little bit of a detour.
Makes total sense. Got it. And I was also wondering, when it comes to defining the roadmap and defining the strategy, how important are partners in this role? I remember we did a lot of continuous testing maturity assessments with your team. We did the business value roadmap. I remember that there are external partners that you use, in various functions. So I'm also wondering, how close are they involved, and how much can they help to kind of get your strategy in place and get all the pieces in place where they need to be?
Oh, yeah. Our partnerships have really been key to helping stabilize kind of where we're at today, but also in preparing us for the future. Because having that partner who not only listens, but who actively solicits feedback on solutions has really been instrumental for us. When you have a partner who seeks to understand your business and what your specific challenges are first, it then makes enablement of any future functionality just that much smoother. But when the relationship is treated more like a vendor-client relationship, I just think a great opportunity is missed. And in building that teamwork, instead it just becomes about selling software and really coming off tone deaf as to what the client's needs are, especially in the middle of a pandemic. Tricentis has been excellent at this, actually, in several ways. You mentioned it. First, the BVR that we did in 2019, the roadmap that you just saw, that set the stage for what we were going to do, what our transformation was pre-COVID. And while COVID did take us on a little bit of a detour, we're still on the same roadmap. But Tricentis actively seeks out input on how we're using their tools and what challenges were happening, and they just keep us up to date on the latest changes.
Excellent, thank you. Hey, and talking about roadmap and talking about transformation, right? Everybody is planning to go into the cloud, have initiative already on the way. I'm wondering where you are and how is it moving?
I'd feel left out if we weren't going to cloud. But yeah, we are working on transitioning to cloud, and it's really caused us to kind of rethink how we traditionally test. We're starting to look at things like testing containerized test environments where you've got infrastructure as code. And that's just something that hasn't traditionally been with our testing teams. But as we are establishing what the foundation of our cloud kind of infrastructure is going to be, and we're starting to move applications there, we're also trying to make sure that our test strategies include any testing where one application might be moved to a cloud, but the surrounding applications that it interfaces with might still be on-prem. And then there's also the impact to performance testing, right? Not only how do we do the performance testing in an elastic environment, but really what's the scope of it? So instead of just testing to stress the infrastructure, we're really doing more performance testing to help architect that right maximum level and node balancing. So it's caused us to rethink quite a few things.
Got it. Makes sense. And when you talk about cloud, I was also wondering, right? You have the theme out there, best in breed versus, best in suite. I'm wondering where IHG is and how you make your decisions.
So yeah, we're really trying to engineer tooling solutions kind of across the board that are going to be a suite of best in breed type tools. Our tooling solutions, no matter what they are, really have to remain flexible. We have to ensure we're using the right tool for the right job at the right time, and they have to align with our standards and processes to assure we're really getting that optimization in all the levels. They have to be able to easily integrate, into our DevOps pipelines as an example, in order for us to really get to where we have continuous delivery and continuous testing.
Excellent, got it. And looking ahead a little bit into 2021, right? It's almost around the corner. What's on tap? What are the priorities?
So we're working on finalizing kind of our refresh priorities for 2021 beyond, based upon what our COVID-19 recovery plans are going to be, and what the current business realities are, how to best allocate resources when we really have kind of a constrained environment today. So as we move through the recovery, it's imperative that we operate as efficiently and effectively as possible. So we are right now working on finalizing our vision and strategy, and then by the end of the year, we'll have that plan laid out to really help drive that continuous improvement and get us back on that road.
Okay, so and the other thing is, I'm wondering for everybody out there, right? I mean, you are in this industry, you are in the testing space for many, many years, very experienced, big company, a lot of challenge in front of you. So the question is, what is the advice for other QA leaders out there? What's the magic sauce or the secret sauce from your perspective? What should everybody consider going forward?
Yeah, I think taking the time now to fine tune the plans, even though, technically we're still in the middle of this pandemic, and ensure that we're building in that flexibility that's going to account for what I'm sure is still going to be a roller coaster ride into 2021. We have to make sure our focus includes the people, honestly, because the people are the success. It depends upon the degree to which they have both the capacity and the motivation to achieve that personal and professional growth in what's really trying times right now. And then also strengthening our internal and external partnerships through a close collaboration, through accountability and transparency, and then through metrics that are really aligned to what our customers' perspectives are.
Makes total sense, I understand. Hey, one more thing, I was just wondering, right, thinking about the changes that we see through COVID and especially how it affects your industry, do you also think there is a significant change in what kind of service your industry provides, or is there already a discussion within your organization about how we, I don't know, potentially have a different way how we do vacation or a different way how we do virtual things? I'm just wondering if this is also something.
Oh yeah, they're looking at all sorts of new, newer opportunities. When you look at where it's expected that the travel and hospitality industry is really going to start recovering, we've already started a recovery, at least here in the U.S. But it's the local travel, right? That's where everybody is going to first start to go to before they get back on those long haul international flights, and how you work around that. So we're already starting to see some of that. And then you're hearing in other places, I'm sure, where you're being creative with your spaces and turning it into, for all those of us who are stuck at home, working from home, who might have kids around and everything else, being able to offer up hotel space that gives you a quiet space during the day to actually do meetings as needed and different things in a different space, just to get out but still feel safe and secure, and that they're meeting the cleanliness standards. So yeah, they're definitely branching out and doing new and diverse things.
That makes total sense, right? I think, that's also one of the learnings that I take away and that we see. And I think everybody in the industry, the question is, right, the world threw something new at us, right? And the question is, how can we adapt to it? How can we make sure that things are happening the right way? And as you mentioned before, I think it's also critical is, how can we make sure, we take the teams and the people with us, because as we all know, product, process, and people are critical to get things done. So very, very helpful. Thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful day and be safe.
Thanks.